Most people think they already know cannabis. But did you know your brain actually has its own cannabis-like system built right in? Today I'll explain what cannabis really is, how your brain works, and how these two connect. And we'll uncover the good, the bad, and the ugly of weed that no one tells you about. First, let's clear up 3 common myths about cannabis. Myth number 1 is this idea that cannabis is natural, so it must be good. I would say poison ivy is natural too, but I don't think you would want to rub that on your skin. So not everything natural means safe for you. Myth number 2, cannabis is not addictive. Many people believe this. While it may not be as strongly or as quickly addictive as opioids or cocaine, in my practice, I do see people who struggle with cannabis addiction. Myth number 3, it's legal, so it must be okay. I hear this more from younger adults. But think about it. Just because something is legal doesn't mean it's safe. Cannabis has different compounds, and they are not all the same. Some are being studied for medical benefits, while others carry very real risks. To really understand cannabis effects, we need to first explore the natural system inside our body that cannabis interacts with, a system most people don't even know they have, the endocannabinoid system. This system is like your body's own cannabis network, a natural balancing system that keeps things running smoothly. It helps regulate mood, memory, sleep, appetite, pain, the immune system, and even how the brain grows and develops. Without this system, the brain and body would be running in chaos. And now, before we dive deeper into cannabis itself, let's look at the 3 types of cannabinoids that interact with the system. So what are cannabinoids? They are simply chemical messengers that connect with your body's endocannabinoid system, a hidden network that quietly shapes how you feel and how you function every day. Cannabinoids come in 3 forms, and each tells us something important about how cannabis interacts with our brain and body. The first type is the natural ones your body makes all on its own, and it's called endocannabinoids. One example is anandamide, nicknamed the bliss molecule, because it helps create balance, calm, and well-being. Think of these endocannabinoids as brief text messages, quick, precise, and gone in seconds. Without these messages, your brain's communication would be loud, messy, and chaotic. The second type is phytocannabinoids, the ones that come from cannabis plant. The most famous compound is THC. Unlike those natural text messages, THC is more like someone spamming your inbox with hundreds of messages at once, loud, prolonged, and going out even to places that didn't ask for them. That's why it overwhelms circuits for memory, coordination, reward, and mood. Then we have CBD compound, which doesn't make you high and can sometimes act like a spam filter, balancing out some of THC's effect. CBD has proven in clinical trials for some forms of epilepsy seizures, also being studied for anxiety, sleep, and pain. Another compound, CBG, is like the parent draft message that can turn into either THC or CBD in the plant. Early studies suggest it may help with inflammation and gut health, but human research is still limited. Now, we've talked about natural endocannabinoids and plant-based phytocannabinoids. The third type is synthetic cannabinoids. They don't come from the cannabis plant at all. You might have heard of them under names like K2, spice, herbal incense, or legal weed. These are man-made chemicals. Here's the difference. With THC, the problem is like spam flooding your inbox, too many messages, too loud, for too long. But synthetics, they are more like hacked or fake emails, messages that look like they belong, but are actually corrupted, distorted, and unpredictable. They don't just overwhelm your system like THC. They can completely hijack this. Sometimes they are sprayed onto dried plant material so people can smoke. Other times they are dissolved into liquids for oils or vape cartridges, or even sold as powders and pills. However they are made, they are unpredictable, sometimes hundreds of times stronger than THC. They have been linked to seizures, psychosis, heart problems, kidney failure, and even death. Emergency rooms see people arrive with severe paranoia, agitation, or even organ failure after using these so-called legal highs. This is the ugly category, and the safest choice is to avoid them completely. So now, let's take a step back and look at how our endocannabinoid system actually works and what it does. Think of it as having three main players. We have messengers, we have mailboxes, and the cleanup crew. So imagine you're stressed. A brain cell senses that and quickly makes an endocannabinoid messenger right on the spot. It carries the signal, calm down, you are safe now. This is the message. This message travels to receptors like mailboxes in other brain and body cells. So the receptors pick them up and your stress circuits dial down. Once the job is done, enzymes step in and clear the messenger away, like hitting message delivered. That way, your body calms just enough to restore balance without shutting the system down completely. The same cycle can happen in other situations too. Like when you're hungry, a messenger tells your brain, find food. When you're full, it says, stop eating. When you're learning, it says, that memory matters, save it. These are just examples. And when you're in pain, it may say, tone it down. Don't let this overwhelm you. So the whole process is always the same. Make the signal, deliver the message to right place, and then clean it up. That's what makes your endocannabinoid system so precise. It doesn't run all the time. It turns on only when needed, and then it switches off. That's how it helps keep the brain and body in balance. So now that we know how the endocannabinoid system works, the next question is, what are other functions of the system? What does this actually do? One of its most important roles is in shaping brain development. The brain doesn't fully finish developing until the mid to late 20s. During those teenage and young adult years, the brain is still wiring itself up, deciding which connections to keep and which ones to let go. The endocannabinoid system is right at the center of this process. It helps strengthen certain connections while pruning others away. Here's an example. If a teenager practices music every day, those music circuits get stronger. If they are building healthy habits, those pathways grow more solid. But the same is true for risky behaviors or substance use. The more those circuits fire, the more they wire themselves in. And that's exactly what the endocannabinoid system do during brain development. Our natural endocannabinoid system also plays a big role in keeping the brain's activities balanced. Think of the brain like a car. To move forward, you need a gas pedal. In the brain, that gas pedal is called glutamate, the main excitatory messenger. It gets neurons firing and drives activity. But too much gas, and the car races out of control, anxiety, impulsivity, even seizures. Of course, a car also needs brakes. In the brain, the main brake is called GABA, an inhibitory neurotransmitter that slows things down and prevents runaway activity. Too much brake and you stall, sleepy, unmotivated, slowed thinking. Here's where the endocannabinoid system comes in. It's like the car's cruise control, constantly adjusting the gas and the brakes to keep the ride smooth, balanced, and safe. Another key role of this system is regulating stress. Normally, endocannabinoids act like a brake on cortisol, our main stress hormone, preventing it from flooding the system. But if stress is constant, that natural brake wears out and emotions become harder to manage over time. This is one reason chronic stress can have such a big impact on mental health. Finally, the endocannabinoid system works far beyond the brain. It dampens pain signals so discomfort feels less sharp. It helps regulate inflammation and immunity. And it even boosts appetite and food reward. Yes, munchies. What happens when THC floods this system, especially with today's high potency strains? Your body's natural cannabinoids are like whispers, tiny, precise, and gone in seconds. But THC is different. It's like blasting a loudspeaker for hours, overwhelming receptors and drowning out normal signals. In the short term, THC can impair memory, slow attention, and reduce reaction time, which is especially dangerous for things like driving. With long-term use, the effects go deeper. Thinking and memory slow down. Learning gets miswired, reinforcing drug-related habits instead of healthy ones. Tolerance builds because the brain adjusts to all this extra stimulation. That means you need more to feel the same, and without it, you may feel flat, irritable, or unmotivated. High-potency THC raises the risks of anxiety, paranoia, or even psychosis, especially in people with a family history of mental illnesses. Now, here's the critical part. For teenagers and young adults, the risks are even higher because their brains are still wiring up critical circuits for decision-making and self-control. For people with ADHD, there's another challenge. Since their brains often start with lower dopamine, THC can feel extra rewarding at first, but over time, it worsens focus, motivation, and emotional regulation. Most importantly, heavy or prolonged THC use can actually change how the brain is wired. Research in both animals and humans shows physical change in brain cells and in the connections between regions. The earlier someone starts and the heavier the use, the greater the risk of long-standing effects. Here's the good news for those who have been using cannabis for so long. The brain can recover. It may take weeks to months of staying sober, but with time away from cannabis and with the support of healthy habits, the brain's natural balance can strengthen again, helping to restore focus, motivation, and emotional stability. Cannabis today isn't what it used to be back in the 1970s, when it averaged around only 3% THC. Now, many strains have been selectively bred over time to have much higher THC levels, around 20 to 30%. And concentrates like oils and vapes can reach as high as 80 to 90%. That's like comparing a light beer to a shot of whiskey. Both are alcohol, but the impact is completely different. So, cannabis isn't just a plant. It directly taps into your brain's natural balance system. With today's high-potency strains, this system can become overloaded, disrupting memory, motivation, and healthy brain development. Here's the key point. Not all cannabis products are created the same. That's why, if someone chooses to use cannabis-based products, it's important that they come from regulated and reliable sources, so you know exactly what's in them and that they've been properly tested for safety. In my next video, I'll go into even more detail about this, the short-term highs and the long-term costs. If you found this helpful, Make sure to subscribe so you won't miss future videos. And please share this with your friends, family, and especially young people who may be curious about cannabis. The more we understand what's happening in our brains, the more power we have to protect our health, our future, and the people we love. Stay informed, stay safe, and stay tuned.